Purple Heart Homes presents Putting the Pieces Back Together, a forum for veterans and the community to connect. Here are your hosts, veterans John Gallina and Brad Borders.
It has already started, chap.
Greetings and salutations.
I'm going to tell you, if you weren't awake when you got here,
right,
you were certainly awake when you got punched in the mouth by these two veterans in the show with us today.
Oh, well, they didn't literally punch us in the mouth, but yeah, it's going to be good.
I'm
really
as soon as
excited.
I came in, they started calling me Air Force.
Well, yeah.
What worse could they do?
I don't know.
Call me a Marine?
Well, that's true. That's true. There were no crayons here, though. So,
well, fortunately not, but that might be why Devin's so angry.
Well, Devin ate them all.
Yeah.
With whipped cream. So, awesome. Well, hey, welcome to Putting the Pieces Back Together, presented by Purple Heart Homes. And Purple Heart Homes is a 501c3 based out of Statesville, North Carolina, but we do work nationally to help veterans solve housing issues through safety and accessibility renovations, and doing our best to solve veteran homelessness issues all across the country. And you can find out more about us at phhusa.org. That's phhusa.org.
Well, today proves to be an interesting day for us, for sure.
Yeah, I'd say.
We have, for a couple of weeks now, been anticipating and setting up this show with George Campbell. The
legend himself.
The legend himself, and he is live here in studio with us.
Woo.
So everybody hold
Calm
on to
down.
your seats.
Calm down.
It is sure to be controversial.
And the crowd went wild.
And it's funny, when he called, it was probably about a month ago, he says, John, he said, y'all are just too nice. We need a controversial show.
Yeah, that's right. In fact, I think the words yesterday were, let's have a Jerry Springer episode. So, like chairs being thrown.
Now, wait a minute. He's not my cousin.
But I will flash you.
Oh, no, please.
Man, law have mercy, man.
We don't want the FCC calling us.
Well, they've already, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So, what's different about today and all our guests here in the show today? We have someone from every branch in the studio today. And I think that's very fitting, considering we're going to be talking about the VFW.
Well, we're missing the Coast Guard, though.
Oh, yeah, I guess so.
Tammy, will you be a honorary member of the Coast Guard and Space Force?
But they got abducted by aliens, so that doesn't count.
Mrs. Giggles has volunteered to be a Coastie and a Space Force representative. Okay, thanks, baby. You're awesome.
There we go.
That's awesome.
And they do a lot of giggling in the Coast Guard.
They do. She fit right in.
Yeah.
She fit right in.
How did that go? We were talking before we went live. We were talking about we got the ooh-yahs, the ooh-rahs, the hooahs, and then what was that sound that the Air Force makes? Four.
That's it. Four. Yeah, four.
Now, wait a minute. We don't want to upset Pat Shannon. Let's
or Hazaeus, right? The Air Force guy sitting right across from us. He's got the volume controls, too, and he can just turn us off.
He's going to bleep us or turn us off.
Yeah, that's right.
He might turn me all the way up.
Yeah, even worse.
That is very scary.
Even worse.
So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get in here to our interview with our guest, Tim Woods, Navy veteran.
Yes,
and state commander for the VFW.
Yes, sir.
And so really excited to hear from you and learn a little bit more about the VFW. I know a lot of people have questions about that. But before we get into the VFW and the work you do, let's talk a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and what led you to join the Navy.
So I was originally born and raised in Long Island, New York. At my senior year of high school, decided I wanted to do something different. I wanted to serve my country, so I joined the Navy. I grew up in VFWs and American Legion with my grandfather and godfather. They each respectively had their own, World War II veterans. So I grew up in these halls and always saw, I was that kid in the corner playing the pinball or whatever. Hey, kid, run down the street, get me this, and I always enjoyed the camaraderie and said, this is something I want to do. And as soon as I was eligible after my first deployment, I joined the VFW.
So what year did you join the Navy?
1995.
95, and how long were you in?
9 years.
9 years.
Yep.
So, and what was your MOS? What'd you do?
I was a machinist mate.
Machinist mate. So
Yep.
What does that mean?
So I worked on the engine rooms on the USS Kitty Hawk, USS Duluth, and then I was in the sub-base in London repairing submarines.
You're a below deck kind of guy.
Oh, yeah, in the hole.
In the hole.
I think that's what Bill Rocap did, wasn't it?
I think so.
Yeah. Great guy. We love Bill Rocap.
Hot and sweaty down in there.
Yeah, 100 degrees, 140, somewhere right around there. It's a cool temperature. It's like it's a wet heat, so don't worry.
Yeah, that's a wet heat. Yeah. So my dad, when I'm an Army guy, and so my dad.
I won't hold it against you. Don't worry.
Yeah, I know it. My dad was a Navy guy, and when he was pinning my lieutenant bars on me in my commissioning service, he said, "You should have joined the Navy. You're going to sleep in a hole." And he was right.
But at least you're not sharing a bed.
That's true. I didn't have to share a bed, but he did. He said the advantages of the Navy. He's like, look, you'll get to take a shower every day, and you'll always have 3 hot meals.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I was kind of picking with Tim a little bit, and he started picking on Devin immediately. I thought it was kind of cute, and so I'll ask for the PG version. But you know, what was it you said? I made the comment that you said you joined the Navy. I said, oh, so y'all share with the Marines, right? And it's the only branch that really shares a branch, if you will. And you said about the Marines that you dress up your dates.
Well, I said they have the best dressed uniform of all the branches, and that's because I said the Navy likes to dress up our dates. You know,
There you go.
Make them good looking. Slapping lipstick on a pig.
Wow.
And Devin, and ladies and gentlemen, mark it down. See, it is April the 11th, and Devin was speechless.
Let me just say, Tim, first of all, you are welcome back anytime.
Anytime. Thank you. Thank you. Let's just call that the show right there, and we are done.
Yep. Okay, so you join the Navy. You do your 9 years. You obviously get to see the world, and you come home and you decide to join the VFW. What was it that led you back to the VFW?
Well, to be honest, I got out in '04, and I went back to Long Island, New York for a couple of years, and I worked for doing an oil burner service because I just applied my trade that I learned in the military out into the civilian world. And, you know, it was a couple of years after 9/11 in New York. Times were a little different, and I really didn't talk about my military service. I really didn't want to do anything to do with my military service until I moved to North Carolina. And I remember I was at a 4th of July parade, and this guy says, young man, you're a veteran? I was wearing a Navy hat. Said, yeah, and wrote me in, you know, pulled me back into the VFW. And from that moment, I was hooked back up on it, knowing that I feel my best job is to help out veterans in any way possible.
So what do you do on the civilian side now?
I do nothing on the civilian side.
That's outstanding.
Sleeping is probably my most challenging part.
What a great job.
Yeah.
How do I get signed up for that? Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, we can help you out.
Okay.
So let's turn to George here, because I believe you two met through the VFW. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
So George, your first time on the show with us. I know we know you, and a lot of folks here in the community know you. But give a little bit of your background as well.
Well, I was born at Camp Lejeune Marine Corps Base in Jacksonville, North Carolina, and
Now I understand why he's so angry all the time.
Yeah.
well, it's the water.
Oh, okay.
It's all the lawyers
You know,
calling
I
about the
heard about the
water.
water.
I mean,
I heard about that.
Gosh, I mean, 3 Amir plugs and water, man. I'm telling
Yeah, there you go.
That's a money scheme for all those people. Well, I can't say where there's a place for lawyers and the insurance people on the air, but so like I said, Jacksonville, North Carolina. My parents moved up here. My dad was a Marine. That's how he and my mother met, and of course, he got one of those Dear John letters while he was in Vietnam, and my mom was exploring her hippie side, and so we just, you know, her hippie side brought us to Union County. We lived in Wingate for a really long time, right across the highway.
Did you live on a hippie commune?
I think she had her own.
Yeah,
honestly.
right.
I mean, you know, you only have one mama lover, but wow.
Right.
Yeah, she was really out there, and
Yeah.
to the day she died, she was
Yeah.
out there. Loved her some marijuana. Just had a really good time.
Now, did she have one of those VFW buses? VFW.
You know, I don't.
We don't
Well, maybe she did.
Yeah, that's pretty good. A VFW bus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was kaleidoscope colored.
That'd be a bus, not a bus.
She thought she was in the VFW.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
And what I was in high school at Forest Hills High School in Marshville, where Randy Travis is from, and a guy that was in the National Guard in Monroe. He was a field artilleryman. He said, "Man, I want to take you and show you something that is this spectacular." And so I went on. You know, the Guard used to do it where you could go on weekends, and back when recruiting was recruiting. I went and watched cannons fire, and from that point on, I was hooked. And I've been in artillery for, since 1985 until 2020. I was an artilleryman. So Now, I chill out in Statesville and work for the city and the city of Statesville, where it all comes together. It's a great place to live and to work.
Man, that's a good plug right there.
That's right.
For those that don't know, that's our city motto,
That's
where
right.
it all
That's
comes together.
Exactly right. And it's not just a motto. I'm telling you, it's I worked for the bus garage for 18 years, and county and city employees, why does it take 3 people to hold up a shovel? You always pass them on the road. And I thought when I got hired by the city, it was going to be the exact same thing, and it's not. Mm-hmm. Some of the hardest working, most dedicated people I've been around. It's not indifferent than the military. Mm-hmm. I mean, they absolutely take their job seriously and want to do the very best job they can for the taxpayers that we represent.
Awesome. So, George, you got a couple of deployments downrange?
I do.
In your time?
Well, John and I were on our first one where we all really became close friends. And then John and, of course, Dale, they got out after our first one, and, for obvious reasons. And then I was fortunate enough to get to go back to the lovely country and just south of Baghdad, where our entire brigade did a second full spectrum mission, and it was just great stuff.
Yeah, for those listening, that deployment was in 2004, and Dale and John, Dale Beatty, our co-founder at Purple Heart Home, John Gallina, the other co-founder, were blown up in 2004. Dale lost both of his legs, and John got pretty messed up too, and that deployment was kind of life-changing for everybody within that unit, and life-changing for a lot of veterans, because the origins of Purple Heart Homes is rooted in that day, and so we like to say the worst day of John and Dale's life was the best day for about close to 1,100 veterans who've been served.
That's right.
With housing needs since the founding of Purple Heart Homes. So
and John and Dale both, when we came back from that and they started Purple Heart Homes, I call it a blessing. I was fortunate enough to be on I believe it was the inaugural board for.
Law have mercy. They had you on the board?
Yeah,
Lord
they did,
help us all.
We only had 2 friends, so he was one of them.
That's right. We called up all the people we knew, and George was one of them.
Dale bought me a bottle. Don't think it was for free. I
think that was a cheer one and a moon.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Yeah. So awesome, man. Well, thanks, George. We really appreciate it.
Well,
Glad you're here this morning. So,
and so you come home and you join the VFW.
I did.
And tell us a little bit about your experience with the VFW.
I think the VFW was even different in 2005 when we came back and I joined the VFW. Our entire organization, our commander at the time, we got the whole unit involved. Our VFW post here in Statesville adopted our unit, and we did things together. The whole unit came up here. After drill, VFW was great, man. They would come over with a 15-passenger van, and I would take everybody's keys, and we would pile in a van, and we'd go to the VFW and have a burger and some fish and a few cold beverages, and it was a really good time of fellowship with older veterans and all of us that had just recently come back from deployment. Yeah. And I'm not going to say that it changed, but the times changed, and along with that change, there seemed to be a separation of the veterans and the connection with the community. Somewhere in there, it was lost for our post, and so I went through a spell where I didn't want to be involved in the VFW anymore, and until I would say in the last 4 years. Yeah. And in that time, the VFW has done more growing in North Carolina, and especially here in Iredell County. And
well, let me just interrupt you there, because we're getting ready to cut over to a break, and just want to kind of leave everybody hanging a little bit, because you're right, the VFW has done a lot of changing, and there's a lot of things happening in all of the organizations that particularly have been around for more than 50 years.
And I would be interested in hearing this too when we come back from break, is hearing Tim tell us about what's the history behind, how did the VFW get started, what are the roots of it, and and then how's that, carrying on into today. And so, and when we do come back after break, we're going to have Devil Dog Devin here. He's got his morning voice with him, and so he's going to tell us about the project of the week, everybody's favorite episode each week. And so we're really excited about that. He's going to tell us about another veteran that Purple Heart Homes is serving. So it'll be fantastic. So we're grateful you're listening to Putting the Pieces Back Together, presented by Purple Heart Homes. We'll be back in about 3 minutes.
All right, we are back with you live in studio, Putting the Pieces Back Together, presented by Purple Heart Homes. And we have our guest here, Tim Woods, VFW State Commander, Navy veteran. And we also have with him retired Army, Sergeant First Class George Campbell, all-around great guy, one of our founding board members of Purple Heart Homes. And then we also have Devil Dog Devin in studio. Turn down your volumes just a little bit so he doesn't blow out your eardrums, because he's fixing to tell us about the Purple Heart Homes project of the week.
Well, hello.
All right, blew out my eardrums.
There he is.
Yeah. Hey, it's good to be back. I noticed that y'all did not say it was good for me to be back.
Well,
but
we still heard you while you were in Wisconsin. We heard every word.
Yeah, I don't doubt that somehow.
Don't worry. Deadshot Karen came in and did a phenomenal job for you.
She did. She did a phenomenal job. I'm really glad that I've got a good substitute there, and hopefully y'all don't scare her off with your antics.
Oh, I don't think we'll scare her off.
I'm afraid she might get her hand on that trigger finger. Y'all be in trouble.
Yeah, she's a dead shot. Yeah,
she's pretty good. Yeah. So, it's not that I did not have a retort for the Navy. I just didn't have one that the FCC would like.
So a retort. That's a great
so
word.
You
do I get a set of steak knives, Brad?
Yeah, set of
So
steak
you
knives.
do admit to having red lipstick on, even if it was put on by Crayola.
It's Crayola. They sponsor us,
Oh, okay.
Well, let's
Amazing.
get into the project of the week.
Why don't we?
Yeah.
How dare you?
Let's talk about Harem Springle.
That's right.
Yeah.
Let's talk about him, man. I love
that's
that
a
name, man.
ain't it?
Where's Harem from?
He is from Greenville, South Carolina.
Okay.
And usually we don't say the veteran's whole name on here, but Harem, he's a special guy. So he's if y'all are from Greenville, South Carolina, you may recognize him as a contributor to the local Greenville newspaper.
No kidding.
Yeah, he's been doing that for a few decades, along with.
Does he do an editorial column or something?
He does.
Really?
Yeah. I think it's a little bit sporadic. It's not. He's not an everyday person, but
Deep Thoughts with Harem Springle.
That's right. Something like that.
That's
yeah.
awesome.
And he is also the founder of the Unity Sports Soccer Club.
Okay.
Which has been going since 1986.
Nice.
They've helped over 1,000 youth to be involved with soccer. He started that with his son in mind, because at the time that soccer was not obtainable for everybody in the U.S., which is really weird to think of, because around the world it's the most popular sport. But
they call it the beautiful game.
The beautiful game, yeah. I don't know much about that. It's
right. Well, that's what they call
I got
that?
2 left feet.
That's what soccer is called around the world. The beautiful
Is this
game.
a politically correct
No,
show?
it's not called that for you.
You know what I call them as lawn fairies.
Oh,
my God.
well,
I told y'all this was going to be controversial.
and
I've
now
known
we're in the
George too
weeds.
long.
Yeah.
It's
where's the
usually the
beat
Marine
button?
you got to worry about.
Actually, I don't think there's weeds on soccer fields.
No. I've been watching that Ted Lasso show.
Yeah, there
so
you
it's,
go. That's right.
I'm learning a little bit. But, Harem, he started this wonderful organization. He's always writing beautiful articles about other veterans. And he's a Vietnam veteran himself, 77 years young. And really involved in his community. And this is one of the great things about Purple Heart Homes, is they help other veterans that that have so long been helping other folks and just can't do it anymore. He had a stroke last year, and he lives in a split-level home, and so he's got a real hard time getting around in there. So we're going to build a sidewalk all the way around from his driveway to the back of his house and get him a ramp in the front. And if you want to be a part of that, I don't mean just contribute. If you want to physically be a part of bringing Hiram a accessibility back to his home after he's brought accessibility to so many folks in his community, contact me because we're trying to start a chapter out there in Greenville. Contact anybody here at Purple Heart Homes, phhusa.org, or if you want to contribute financially, again, you can go to phhusa.org. Hiram deserves your support.
Is that Greenville, South Carolina?
Greenville,
or North Carolina?
South Carolina.
Okay. Greenville, South Carolina.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Just
wonderful guy.
Just a very quick comment. We had a Mr. McAllister we just recently put on a ramp, and he did a video and put it out on the Purple Heart Homes social media pages. And to hear him talk about how he was trapped in his house because he didn't have a ramp, and what a difference it made, not only to have the ramp, but to have volunteers come out and install that ramp so that he could have that freedom to be able to leave his home when he wanted versus waiting for somebody to carry him out. Huge difference.
I would encourage you to go if you can get on our YouTube channel. We did several years ago. We did a thing we call the empathy video, where it was filmed from the perspective of a veteran. It was our buddy Dave Morale was playing the character. And it was sort of a fictional account, but it was just to give people the opportunity. And you can use like the VR goggles, and you can watch this thing on YouTube, and it will literally give you an idea of what it's like to not be able to reach up into your cabinets, and to not be able to have access, and to not be able to get into your bathroom. And it shows the transformation of this house. And it's really quite fascinating. And so when you see people so joyful over the fact that they can just go in and out of their house, think about that the next time you just walk out your door, and how easy it is to just step down and go down a set of steps, or just move around in your house, and you don't even think about it, right? It's all muscle memory. But what happens when all of that is taken away from you? It's really powerful what we're able to do.
Not only is access within your home taken away from you, but your access to the VFW. Because if you can't get in and out of your house, you can't get to the VFW or to the American Legion.
Or the doctor.
Or the
grocery store, right? All of those things.
And so you need that. You need that socializing, right? You need to be able to have that camaraderie. You need to be able to get to the doctors, you say, and to so many other basic necessities of life. And it's really important. So I want to switch back over. I know time is just quickly moving past, as it always does. And when we have so much laughter here in the studio, it seems to just go quickly.
Hoorah!
But so I want to turn back to Tim, and you had proposed a question, Brad, just before we took our break, about what is the purpose and the origin of the VFW. And so, Tim, would you share a little bit of that with us?
So the VFW is the world's largest combat veteran organization in the world. We have over 6,000 posts. We have posts worldwide, all over the Pacific area, in the Europe area, throughout the United States, continental United States, Alaska, Hawaii, Puerto Rico. We have posts. We have posts everywhere. There's pretty much a veteran base. North Carolina has about 130 posts currently right now. We have about 22,000, 23,000 right in membership for the VFW. And there's 750,000 veterans in North Carolina. We have 22,000. Mm-hmm. So it's an organization that's been around for about 123 years, 124 years, ballpark it right around there. Started by the Spanish-American War veterans. And then, World War I broke out, and they started the organization, started growing. They figured we got to do something to help these guys out. And, we fight for veterans' rights. Every year we go to Washington, D.C. 2 times a year in September and March. We say, hey, we need this bill passed, or we need help with this, we need help with that. And it's when you have an organization that we have right now, it's currently just sitting right about 1 million members between the VFW and its auxiliary. We could say, we have 1 million members, this is what we're going to need. When you go fight for that, politics aside, whether whatever you want to believe in, those people only hear votes. That's when they hear membership numbers. So, oh, well, if I have 1 million votes, this could help me out, but let's push to help veterans' rights, which we think is the wrong way, because we gave them the opportunity to have those positions in power, because we went and we fought for wars, or we fought for something we thought was right, where our country sent us. You join, you raise your right hand, you take the oath, you go no matter where they tell you. Whether you believe it or not, you have to follow orders.
Yeah.
And if you don't, you're going to get punished, right?
Well,
So
when people came back from, if you go back 100 years, when people came back from World War I, there was no VA. I mean, there was nothing.
1932, the VA was established.
Yeah, there was nothing. I mean, people came back injured and wounded and suffering from all of the effects of being in trench warfare. There was nothing, and it was literally every veteran relying on just the goodness of their family and their local community. And ultimately, it just after you have multiple conflicts, it just wasn't enough.
Right. Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why the VFW has always been there. So to have that camaraderie, to have that, that union that we all served, whether or not you were in the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, the Marines, Coast Guard, Space Force, but they're out of this world, so we don't know.
They are
too
out
many,
of this world.
too
That's
many of
good.
them.
Well played, sir.
Thank you. It's somewhere we could also, we sit around, we joke, we banter, we have fun. I used to tell everybody, you can come into the post, have a good time, joke around, pick on each other. God forbid another person, a civilian comes in and wants to say something about, a fellow Marine, even though, we have to defend them also.
Yeah, that's true.
Even Army, you can joke around all you want. Don't pick on my brother, though. Don't pick on my sister.
Yeah.
It's a thing we have.
So, Tim, interesting, because I think that's the part that most people perceive as the purpose of the VFW, right? Is just to bunch of vets getting together, hanging out, drinking beer, playing cards, and
shooting pool,
yeah. Right? But there is that deeper mission and that deeper connection,
sure.
right?
Yeah, we actually the VFW, we have a couple core programs. We have a Patriots Pen program that's for middle school students, teaching about Americanism, patriotism, that kind of stuff. And they have it's post level, district level, then it goes to department level. There's a national level also. Mm-hmm. And then we have the VOD, the Voice of Democracy program, and that goes for same thing, post district, high school students, 9 through 12, have to submit an essay, digitally, and they have a topic every year that changes. And if they win, North Carolina, we give out over $24,000 in VOD scholarships to these kids. Mm-hmm. And they have to go to school, and that's when the money gets enrolled to them. They have a 5-year window. Once they graduate high school, they can get their funds to their school. On a national level, we just did it in D.C., and the winner got $35,000 nationally. That helps out.
Yeah, for sure.
That's like 4 books.
Yeah, that's like 4 books now. Yeah.
So, we have that. We have a Teacher of the Year program. We have a Fire, Police, EMS program. We honor first responders. A lot of times they're veterans also. Service after service. This is what I call it. Mm-hmm. So we honor them. Give them a little award. There's a plaque, sometimes financial. And we also do a Buddy Poppy King and Queen program, which the Buddy Poppies have come from World War I. It's from a token from France that they gave us. Little poppy flowers. And what it was is, and that's a coined phrase by the VFW, by the way, is the Buddy Poppy. We're the only organization that can call it that. But it's you see them at parades, a little silk, red flowers. And what they are is that the French people, because we saved them and freed their land.
The 30th Brigade saved them.
Oh, my God.
Just plugging that in.
Oh,
just
my
plugging
God.
that in.
Here we go.
Sorry.
The 30 who?
I don't know.
The Dirty 30,
Oh,
Roosevelt's
thank you.
SS, as they're
Oh, thank
affectionately known by the
Thank you,
Germans.
Tim. Thank you, Tim.
That's what they call us lots of things, but we're always there to save the day.
So anyway, I was saying about the Buddy
Yes.
Poppies is that people from France brought them over to us as tokens of appreciation.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been doing this since the early 1920s. Every year we go out Memorial Day parades. It's a token of appreciation. That's what it is. And those funds, those poppies are actually assembled by disabled veterans. And what they are is we hand them out. It's all donations.
Yep.
If you want to, we just want to put our name out there. This is a buddy. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
I've gotten one at Walmart before.
Yeah.
There were some dudes out in front of
Yeah.
Walmart giving those away.
So when we do that all that money comes into what we call a relief fund. And that money goes out, and it's earmarked for specific topics. It can only go to help out veterans, whether they fall in hard times, this or that, blah blah blah. We have a certain criteria that money has to go to.
Mm-hmm.
So the more poppies we issue out and get in donations, the more veterans we could help out locally. And you don't have to be a member of the VFW.
Yeah.
You have to have certain criteria to join the VFW. But we open our doors to all veterans.
What is that criteria?
So the criteria is you actually have to serve overseas, and you have to serve in a combat area, have certain campaign ribbons or badges you've earned. And we say it's not the cost of the membership; it's your eligibility to be a member of the VFW. There's other organizations, right? There's the American Legion, the DAV. There's VVA, there's a Korean War Veterans Association, Jewish War Veterans Association. There's a bunch, but the VFW is the largest. We also have an organization inside the VFW called the Military Order of the Cooties, which was established after World War I.
Wait, back up. What is that?
The Military Order of the Cooties.
The Cooties.
Yeah.
Okay, if he says it one more time, FCC is going to pick us up.
So it's an honor degree inside the VFW.
Okay.
Just like the American Legion has the 40 and 8, we have the MOC, and that was established. And the Cooties actually come from the
There we go. That's it.
the trench
Shut down.
the trench warfare of what these veterans are getting lice.
and they would get them.
Yeah,
They would
and
actually get.
That's where it comes from. And,
Unbelievable.
And our motto is keep them smiling to beds of white. So the Cooties go out and visit all the hospitals, where the veterans are. We go to nursing homes. We go to their homes. Their houses.
You're a cootie.
I am a Cootie because I will tell you, I'm branded if you want to see what the Cootie bug looks like.
You are. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, this man has a
So now
cootie
I
tattooed on his
understand.
forearm.
Now I understand where the middle school rumors started.
Yeah, that's right.
Not the
my
circle,
gosh.
dot. It didn't work.
That is freaking awesome. That is amazing.
But these are just organizations we have internally, and we have an auxiliary that helps that assist the VFWs.
Yeah.
And we just go out. To me, it's all about helping veterans. Honestly.
Yeah. That is really cool. I never knew that, and I'm so glad. I learn something every day. I'm just so glad.
George, I don't understand how you can't have fun with the VFW. When we come back from our break here in about 3 minutes, we're going to hear about your experience with the VFW and how the listeners and folks that would be interested online can get involved. All right.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also want to address the issue of younger veterans not joining veteran service organizations. I really want to talk about that and why is that the case. So we'll be back here in 3 minutes. Thanks so much for listening.
All right, here we are, live back in studio, putting pieces back together, presented by Purple Heart Homes. If you need a good belly laugh, all you got to do is listen to Tim Woods and George Campbell, and I'm sure you will not be able to drive for laughing so hard.
Well, we've been talking about cooties this morning and lots of other interesting things.
I just learned that there's a whole new level to the VFW and in their command structure. Apparently, Tim is going to be the
Incoming Grand Commander for the Military Order of the Cooties.
the Grand Commander for the Military Order of the
There
Cooties.
should be a T-shirt with that on it
Oh,
somewhere.
we have T-shirts, don't worry.
Oh my goodness, that's fantastic. George, tell us about your cooties.
I don't.
He's been deloused.
I've had shots. I've
First
had
of
my
all,
shots.
does Angela know?
I've had my shots. I don't.
I have tested negative.
That's correct.
Is that what this whole controversy with the VFW is over who's in the cooties and who's
yes,
not?
That's exactly.
They wouldn't allow me in.
Maybe that's why the young people don't want to join. They're afraid they're going to wind
Could
up getting
be.
recruited to the cooties.
Yeah, could be.
Or they might get them while they're there.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Hey, so George, let's address that question. I mean, and we actually, Travis Clower, who's a Navy veteran, lives here in town. He sent a question in, and he said, how can younger veterans get involved? And he said because there are quite a few of them locally now, and that's in our area in Iredell County, but this is nationwide, right? There are lots of younger veterans, and I was watching a video on social media from a Marine Corps veteran's wife, and she was talking about how there is I know this when I go in the American Legion Hall, Post 65 here in town. I walk in, they go, "How you doing, young fella?" I'm 57 years old. They think I'm the youngest guy there, right? And we have an influx of younger combat veterans that are settling in our communities. and they are not joining the VSOs. That's just fact. That's absolute
Well,
fact.
and just as George said, when we came home in 2005, the post, what is that, 2013? 2031 contacted us and, adopted a unit. All of us went over there, joined up, and I went to one meeting, and I left that meeting and was like, nope, I don't want to do this. Because it was, in my estimation at that point, it was a lot of talk, it was a lot of bureaucracy, and Dale and I just basically said, we want to do something. We want to help somebody. We want to be active in the community, not just go to a hall and hang out and talk.
And then the other thing in this video was not just that, but that they did not feel welcomed. They did a survey with thousands of young veterans across the country that they did not feel welcomed. And so I have personally never experienced that. Right. Not,
just my own experience with Vietnam veterans in particular, and the amount of work. Over half of the veterans that Purple Heart Homes has assisted has been just Vietnam veterans.
Correct.
And so in working with them, what I've come to understand is that World War II veterans kind of shunned Vietnam veterans, and then Vietnam veterans in their own way, while they advocated for more benefits for veterans, they saw parade after parade after parade when the next following generations came home, and they felt again left out. And because of that, they did not warmly accept so many generations of that were following them. And the only reason I think we at Purple Heart Homes receive a warm welcome from Vietnam vets is because they see that that's who we particularly focus on. But I think that's kind of the issue there, Brad, and you're exactly right. Well, there's not a warm welcome when you walk into a VFW hall. There is this issue.
I would say and I would say too. Obviously that's going to be dependent upon the place you go, right?
Yep. Sure.
And the culture
The post you walk
because
into.
every post has its own culture, right?
That's
There's some overarching cultural things that everybody's going to abide by, but it depends on leadership and what the culture of that particular post is like. But George, give us some of your thoughts on it, and I think everybody would love to hear that.
Well, let me start by saying if there is one generation of veteran in America that deserves to be disgruntled, it is the Vietnam veteran.
Yeah.
They were never told welcome home. They were never shown courtesy by our government, by the people in our communities. So one of the very first things that I always do when I meet a Vietnam veteran is tell them welcome home. And so with that in mind, you think about how they were treated. They were spit on. They were called all the names. The whole gamut, baby killers, and all these things. When they were doing the exact same thing that you and I did, Brad, they did what their government asked them to do. And they went to a place and they were told to fight against a group of people, whether they agreed or disagreed. They did what they were supposed to do. I
saw a friend of mine put something on Twitter yesterday. My friend Dredd down in Charlotte, who's an Army veteran, and he was talking about Vietnam veterans in this post. He said, but he showed a picture of a Vietnam era Zippo lighter, right? And I'm going to hold that up, right? And you can find this online, but it's got a peace symbol on it. It's carried by a Vietnam combat veteran, and it has this inscription on it: "We the unwilling, led by the unqualified, to kill the unfortunate, die for the ungrateful." And that pretty much sums
it
up.
up. That's exactly right.
Sums it all up.
That's exactly right.
And I think you can gather the feeling that they have, the emotion that they have behind that. And I don't think it's a hate. I don't think it's an anger. I think it's a hurt.
That's right. And I think that is part of what leads them to be so unwilling to change.
Yeah.
I mean, there are several posts out there where you walk into it, it's like at a Baptist church, man. There's somebody at the back door and they greet everybody when they walk in the door. You know what I mean? Yeah. Hey, man, come over here and sit down with us, that kind of thing. And there are some posts, and I unfortunately, I think mine was one of those, because Tim only briefly touched on the stuff the VFW does. There's veterans that are in the veterans in schools, veterans in what's the one where they're in colleges? Student Veterans of America.
SVA.
I mean, and that's something that we should. I don't know if Mitchell does, but that's absolutely something that they should do because the VFW. What Tim didn't mention is veteran of foreign wars contribute more than 9 million volunteer hours a year. Across the country, across the world, there's more than 9 million annual volunteer hours. Why are we not doing that in our communities?
Let's kind of pause there with you for a second, George, and turn back to Tim. Tim, if there's a group of veterans in a community where there is a VFW, and that VFW is not providing access to these programs, how can that group of veterans get involved and bring those programs to that local VFW post? Is there somebody at the state they can contact to help?
They can always contact the headquarters up in Raleigh, but I mean, worst case scenario, if there's a group of younger veterans, we're always, I mean, it's a dying organization. Like, and you only have, what's the 10% rule of your congregation does all the work, blah, blah. And if you have a bunch of young veterans, and they felt ousted, or they just felt like they weren't welcomed, you can always start another post.
That's right.
Yeah,
As long as you have your minimum of 25 members, you could start a post.
Yeah.
And like
And they're very
it
welcoming.
depends, where you go. We have that stigma that every VFW is just a gin joint. Go there, drink beer, smoke cigarettes, hear war stories, blah, blah, blah. Not every VFW has a bar. Not every VFW has a canteen, There's a lot of posts that do, and there's more posts that don't actually have one. And a lot of the ones that don't seem to do a lot of the good work also. I mean, there's a post out of Wake Forest area. Like every May, they do over almost $30,000 in 1 month of donations of Buddy Poppies. And they don't have a bar. They don't actually have a physical post. They meet with American Legion, a DAV. I think they all meet in the same building, just rotate. The times are different. You look at the older time, World War II, Korea vets, everyone always seems to forget about the Korean War. But again, the Korean War veterans weren't welcomed by the World War II veterans. Same thing. So it all goes downhill.
That's right.
We have to get rid of that. We're the only ones that watch each other's backs. Whether you were in Vietnam, Korea, World War II, Desert Storm, Desert Shield, Iraq, Korea, wherever you were, you have to. We were trained to watch each other's backs, and when we get out, we don't have that anymore.
Yeah, and I think too, I mean, you just think about like just what we're taught in the military. So like right now, I'm mentoring 2 young lieutenants, right? And they don't understand me. They don't have any concept for understanding me. When I talk about my deployment 13 years ago, they were in middle school. Right? Because they're young lieutenants. They have no concept, right? And so if I look at them as a leader, if I look at them, it's like, you don't know where I've been, you don't know what I've been doing, right? If I do that, right, then what does that do? That just degrades my relationship with them and degrades my ability to put my fingerprint on them so that they can be the great leaders that they're going to be in 15 years.
It's really interesting, Brad, as I just sit here and I think I'm still kind of stuck on that statement that you read about the Vietnam vets, and my mind immediately goes to the moral injury, right? That there is a deep hurt in particular in that generation that maybe none of us can ever fully understand or grasp. But
we certainly can't understand it experientially.
That's right.
I mean, because we don't. We have no capacity to understand
But how much
that.
more so is the need for that camaraderie to be around people that can at least somewhat sympathize with you, right? Or empathize at some level the amount of injury, and to create that space for healing. But, more often than not, healing, also requires some action. The number of veterans, Vietnam veterans alike, that have volunteered for Purple Heart Homes, that have come back and said after they volunteered how much better they feel after being active and helping another veteran and realizing that they're not alone and that they can still contribute and they can still do something good for others, that they're able to heal themselves, right? And so those programs to be able to get into the schools, to be able to get into the colleges, to be able to get out into the community, to be able to let people know about why we have organizations like the VFW to keep those memories alive.
Yeah.
I mean, it's important.
Great thing is like we have the Vietnam Moving Wall. That's coming to North Carolina. It's coming to Kernersville at the end of this month. It's going to be here for 5 days from like the 28th of April to May 1st or May 2nd, somewhere right around there. But those are great opportunities because those are things that heal. There's these veterans who can't get to Washington, D.C., or don't want to travel to Washington. And I don't blame them for not traveling to D.C.,
Right.
however, for certain reasons, odds or ends, but it's a half replica of the Vietnam Wall. I do the honor flights, and I go up there and, we do the World War II Memorial, we do the Korea Memorial.
Tell everybody what the honor flight is,
So
because
the
there's people that may not know.
Honor Flight was started out to bring World War II veterans to see the memorial in Washington, D.C., the World War II. And it was started it's like their final flight, their final mission. They get that closure, that healing that they may need. Or, that's the greatest generation, right? Those guys went off. You're 19 years old, you're 18 years old. We're going to send you over to England. We may see you in 4 years. Who knows? They didn't know.
Right.
They just left because they did what they thought they had to do for their country. A lot of people don't understand. 4 years is a long time.
Yeah.
And all you had communication-wise, talk about a gap, was a letter.
Yeah.
That's it. There was no phone service.
No.
You couldn't just pick up a payphone and call home.
That's
You
right.
couldn't email anybody. So these flights go over there. Unfortunately, our World War II veterans are dying off at a drastic number. And then we could bring Korea veterans, we bring Vietnam, any veteran that really needs it or needs that to go see these memorials, we'll take them up there. And I tell everybody, if you've never been in the service, if you're not a veteran, and you see a guy breaking down in front of the Vietnam, don't ever say, I know what you're going through, because you haven't. You never walked a mile in their shoes.
Yeah, that's true.
But if I was to say it to a Vietnam vet, I wasn't there where he was. He was in the jungle. I was on a ship. My boots on the ground were always deck plates, steel deck plates, right? You guys' boots on the ground was dirt, sand. However, the emotional attachment, though, is that we have that connection, that bond, that people don't realize. I always say, when you get out of the service, I think there's like two jobs that are really the closest to military service would be a firefighter and a policeman. Because, you go in with a group of guys or your group of people, they're the only ones that got your back.
Yeah.
You go in, we're all coming out kind of thing.
Right.
And it's that bond that people don't realize. We do, in the Navy, you do a 6-month deployment. But you don't know. It could be 6 months, 7, 8, 9. They say, you're going to hit this port, hit this port, hit this port. I mean, my last deployment, we were in Seychelles, right off Madagascar, and the USS Cole got blown up. And all we knew was we were leaving in 1 hour.
Right.
We didn't know where we were going, what happened. We stayed there for 90 days, just circling around the waters in Yemen with the FBI and the New York City police detectives did the investigations. But it's like, we didn't know.
Yeah.
We were stuck there.
Wow.
Well, and those are that's common ground across, all avenues of service, all of
So
them.
as we start to wrap up here, first of all, Tim, thank you for your service.
Yeah, thank you for yours.
Thank you for the work you're doing now, currently with the VFW. George, thank you for your service too, and thank you for all you do for our community as a whole. And thanks for bringing Tim in to be on the show today. Just a call out here. Rob Cottle is listening, and he has sent a message. He's one of Tim's battle buddies, and they have the wall, what is it, the roaming wall? The moving wall is going to be at the Kernersville, North Carolina VFW post 5352, April 28th through May 1st. You can Google that, Kernersville, North Carolina VFW post 5352, and you can go see that and go support. And I'm certain they're going to take volunteers to be able to help support that as well.
Yep.
So the listeners that are not veterans, how can they get involved? Just briefly, as we got about a minute left.
So again, we have a auxiliary, and what that means is if anybody that you in your family, direct bloodline, mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, brother, sister that served overseas and been eligible for the VFW, you can join the auxiliary, and that's how you go out and help.
Yeah,
and
you just go online.
We
Google
don't turn away
VFW.
volunteers.
Yeah. Amen.
Like I said, I'm one of the youngest department commanders in the past 20 years here in North Carolina. 45 years old, and
Awesome. Hey, well, thanks for being here. We'll see you all next week. Hey, no more cooties for anybody. You've been listening to Putting the Pieces Back Together, presented by Purple Heart Home.
you might like it.
You've been listening to Putting the Pieces Back Together with John Gallina and Brad Borders. Join us again next Tuesday at 8 a.m. and Saturday at 5 p.m. for Putting the Pieces Back Together on News Talk WSIC.